from Sweet Dreams Bake Shop, and welcome to another video. Today we're going to be talking about the top items you should be selling at your home-based bakery or your storefront bakery in 2020 for Christmas. So let's get into it. Usually I don't do things in ranking order, but really, let's be real, this is at the top of the list for everybody. Hot chocolate bombs are blowing up everywhere and everyone's actually flocking towards them. Even though the hot chocolate bomb is super easy to make, especially for people that already do a lot of baking, or maybe you're a chocolatier, this is super easy to do. But a lot of people out there don't want to go and invest in sphere molds, or maybe they're just not really that into making things. So I see a lot of people selling this on Marketplace, on moms groups, so I think that this is a really popular one. Now, what can you do to make yours special and yours stand out? I always like to offer the classic. So every time there's some sort of trend out there, I do like to offer a classic version because there are those people that just want the straight up hot chocolate bomb. But I think offering lots of different flavor profiles is really going to up the sales of your hot chocolate bombs. So I have ideas that have been swirling around in my head that I haven't really used yet. Maybe I'll do another tutorial for hot chocolate bomb. I will say that when I did the chocolate bomb recipe myself, I found it to be a little bit sweet. So definitely make sure that you watch out what you're using in that chocolate bomb for the ultimate perfection. Now, the way to sell this properly is to make sure that you have good packaging for your chocolate bomb. The chocolate bomb can be a little bit delicate, so packaging this properly is going to make sure that your sales are continually rising and you're not having to give any refunds for broken chocolate spheres. Now, if you follow my tutorial for chocolate bombs, this is a pretty stable chocolate bomb itself, but you still want to make sure that you're packaging it correctly. So I think one of the best ways to do it is to stick the whole chocolate bomb into a paper cup with a lid, and then make sure that you give instructions on how to actually utilize the chocolate bomb properly. So if you're using a little bit of a smaller sphere, maybe you're only going to use 2 cups of milk, just make sure that you put the exact directions with this hot chocolate bomb. There's other ways to do it as well. You can put it in cupcake liners and individually wrap it. I don't like this way as much, just in case somebody purchases it from you and then that's the only thing they're purchasing and then they put it down beside them. Anything could happen in the car. So I really like the idea of the cup just because then it's really well protected, and they can also enjoy the hot chocolate bomb without even having to get out another cup. Now, how much would I charge for the hot chocolate bomb? I think it can range in prices, but I do think it's important to use a good quality chocolate because that's what's going to separate you from other companies or businesses that are doing this. You always want to try to add value to your hot chocolate bombs. So if you want to do something different, like turn it into an ornament, use different shapes, that's also a great way to set a fair price for your hot chocolate bomb. I know the tutorials make it look really easy and quick, but tempering your chocolate can be difficult. So it does take some work and it does take skill. I think I would charge anywhere between $5 and $8 for a hot chocolate bomb, depending on the size, depending on what you put into it. And I know $8 seems a little ridiculous because you're literally placing this hot chocolate bomb into some hot chocolate, but if you think about it, some Starbucks drinks get up to that price and more. So I really don't think it's that out of the ordinary. But again, as with all of my pricing, this is just a guideline for things that I would do if I were selling these things. The next thing on the list is DIY gingerbread kits. Now you can do this one of 2 ways. You can either do it where you bake all the pieces and you imprint everything and then you offer all of your icings up and all of the decor that's gonna go on there and everything is apart, and then you tell them instructions on how to put it together and maybe some decorating ideas. You could do it that way. Or I think the way that I would personally do it is I would actually have the house fully constructed. Now, The reason that I say this is because although royal icing can adhere the gingerbread houses together, I'm sure many of you have used royal icing to do this, it is not the most stable way. And I know that some people would get really frustrated if things weren't happening properly. And if somebody that isn't really an avid decorator or baker comes to you and purchases this and wants to do it with their kids, for example, then they might get frustrated that some of those walls are falling down. As we know, even though royal icing does stick very nicely, if we don't re-whip those royal icings, it's not the perfect consistency. So things can go a little awry when it comes to the construction of the gingerbread house. But if you put the house together yourself and then offer it like that, I personally would choose that way. Though of course the other way will work just fine. It just depends on who your customers are, and you know your customers best. So what I do differently when I construct a gingerbread house is I actually dip it in hot sugar, and that's how I actually adhere all the pieces together. Reason being, it's a lot faster, and literally your gingerbread will never ever come apart. And let's be realistic here. A lot of people won't end up actually eating their gingerbread houses. They may take a nibble here and there, but for the most part, it is a showpiece that is supposed to last for the season. Now, how much would I charge for a DIY gingerbread kit? Well, I think if the pieces were apart, you would kind of charge based on how many pieces there were. And as I've said in past for DIY kits, I kind of usually generally start the price at around $3 to $5 per piece. I mean, these are going to be big cookies. You're also going to be providing all of the icings and sprinkles. So it's hard for me to give you a definitive price, but I will say ballpark, that's what I would do. And I also think for ballpark range of how much you're actually going to charge for the whole kit itself, I would say anywhere from maybe $30 to $50 depending on what the structure is. If I were to put this structure together myself and then just offer all of the decorations, I definitely think my starting price would be at least $50 and up. And I know that seems a little bit steep, but I really think if you make your structure specialized and it's not just like the regular looking houses that you see in the packages for like 10 bucks at Walmart, I think that that would be a reason for people to come and purchase that gingerbread house from you. I think maybe doing something very specific to your area, like a particular landmark, would be really, really cool and would be incentive for people to come and purchase this as a stock item. The next thing on my list is very similar, and it's things that I have mentioned before. So it is a DIY cookie kit, and there's lots of different ways you can go about this. You can either do paint your own cookies, where you kind of just flood your whole cookie and then you stencil on that PYO stencil, and then you include paintbrushes and all of those things that they will need in order to create paint your own cookies. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I have a tutorial right here that you can go and check out. It's not Christmas themed, but it is a PYO cookie if you don't know what that is. Now for PYO cookies, I generally say anywhere from kind of $8 to $10 per cookie. Again, I know that seems like a little bit much, but the reason that I say that is because make your cookie a little bit bigger. You are giving them the paintbrush, a delicious cookie, and you're also giving them something that is iced, because you do need to ice it, and you're also giving them an activity. So that's why I say PYO cookies can be a little bit more expensive. The next thing on my list are advent calendars, and there's so many different types of advent calendars that you could create. Now, the ones that I think are actually going to do well, going back to my first thing on the list, hot chocolate bombs. Hot chocolate bomb calendars are great because you can set this up in a myriad of ways. Remember, we talked about how you could put things into cups and have that hot chocolate bomb in there. Well, you could do that. You could have a bunch of these cups, label them different numbers, and put them all in a box, nicely lined, and it's going to look fantastic. It's also a huge draw because, as we all know, everybody needs their kind of little coffee fix or something that really gets them going in the morning, or maybe a pick-me-up for after work. So I think the hot chocolate bomb advent calendar would be superb. The other type of calendar that I think would do really well is a sugar cookie or gingerbread calendar, something with really beautiful decorated cookies. It's a huge draw for people that just love looking at something beautiful and enjoying a cookie. Another advent calendar that is a cookie calendar, but doing different types of cookies for the calendar. I think this would be really, really great. Now, when you are creating these advent calendars, you do want to keep in mind that you don't want to do anything that's going to go bad, because as we know, you need to have these advent calendars last from the 1st to the 24th. And realistically, you need to have them done before then, because people will want to pick up these calendars a little bit in advance. So things like the sugar cookies and the gingerbread cookies do really well. You could even tell your customers to put them in the freezer, just in the whole advent box container that you're going to give them, and then they can take it out day by day and let that cookie thaw if they want extra fresh cookies. Or they can legitimately leave them out on the counter for the whole season. They're cookies, so they don't necessarily need to be refrigerated, so I think you're going to be just fine food safety wise, but quality wise, the quality may go down a little bit. The hot chocolate bombs, same deal. These can also go in the fridge just fine, but if you've tempered your chocolate correctly, they can stay out in room temperature and everything is going to be fine. I know some of my subscribers live in really, really warm places though, so definitely you want to have some sort of refrigeration directions written on those advent calendars. I don't know if I would do advent calendars that were like cupcakes or things like that, just because a lot of people maybe don't have the space to freeze a whole cupcake advent calendar. So I think doing something that is dry and doesn't require refrigeration would be a much better idea. And if your shop sells things like savory items as well, I think little snack mixes for every day would be really, really awesome too. Now, how much should you charge for these advent calendars? It really, really depends. If you're going to go the stock route, I would say anywhere from about $40 to $50 would be reasonable. If you really think about it, I mean, my pricing starts at $3 per iced cookie. So $3 per iced cookie, and usually I don't take size that much into account unless it's like a mini cookie, but 24 times 3 is already 72. So I think it would be reasonable if you only charged about $50 to $60 per advent calendar. You might be wondering why I'm lowering the price so much. My thought process is if you're making this in a stock way, you're just going to be kind of doing it really, really quickly. And of course, when you can do things on an assembly line, it can be a little bit quicker. So I think somewhere in that range is what I would charge. If I were doing the hot chocolate bombs, same thing. You kind of price it out and then take off maybe $5 to $10 depending, or if you just want to leave the price as is based on the individual sale of each hot chocolate bomb, that is up to you. I like to lower it just a bit so I give people incentive to purchase so many cookies at once. Now, if you're going to be doing those advent calendars custom, I say that you charge full price for each cookie for custom, because really there's no difference. And in fact, you're even offering a little bit more because you're gonna put it in that really beautiful packaging that makes it an advent calendar. Final thing on my list, which is a little bit more traditional and has been done before. This isn't really super trendy to 2020, but I do think it's one of those things that does well every single year. And that is Christmas ornament cookies. I think these are great because if you sell them stock, you can really just make a ton whenever you're available, whenever you feel like making them, and you can just have them stored in your freezer. And if people want to customize them with names or whatever, you can leave blank spaces on these ornaments and put them in your freezer, and then when they're ready to pick them up, you can write their names on it really easily, repackage it up, and then have it ready to go for them to pick up. And what's great about these and what customers love about these is they don't need a minimum order for something like this, because if you are just having them as stock, you can have a small stock pile. Of course, if you're getting a lot of inquiries about this, then make sure that you set up some sort of pre-order system for yourself so that you have a holiday season too, and you're not just making cookies all day long. And for these ornament cookies, I think I would charge anywhere from about $4 to $8, depending on how extravagant these cookies end up looking. So all of those ideas, you can either do them stock, which means you have them at all times, or you can do them as a custom order, your choice. But I have seen a lot of people inquiring about these items, wanting to purchase these items. I have links to all of the different items and tools that you're going to need if you want to make any of those things that I talked about in the video. They're down in the description box below. So go ahead and check those out if you're interested in making any of those items this Christmas season. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you can be part of the Sweetie fam. Right now, I'm uploading daily, so make sure you hit that notification bell so you know when I upload. Also, be sure to comment, request, or ask a question. I love hearing from you guys. Bye!